Before the controversy, SADIA KAHN was known as the woman who cracked the code on modern relationships. On social media, she branded herself as a psychologist, dating strategist, and mindset coach. Her videos looked polished, her tone confident, her message clear. If you want better relationships, start by becoming a high-value version of yourself. She spoke with authority, quoting psychology studies, referencing attachment theory, and dissecting dating behavior like a professional therapist. Her followers loved it. To them, she wasn't just another influencer. She sounded like someone with academic credentials and insider understanding of human nature. She earned trust by blending the language of science with the allure of self-improvement. The pitch was simple but powerful. I can help you attract what you deserve. For men, she offered step-by-step systems on how to attract a high-value woman. For women, she sold the mindset of independence, self-respect, and emotional control. She was the bridge between psychology and pop culture, turning therapy talk into viral content. But behind the calm tone and expensive lighting, there was a serious business. Her official website promoted exclusive programs like the High Value Man course and personalized one-to-one mentorship packages. The promise? Transformation in 90 days. The price? Often in the thousands. Some clients publicly claimed they paid several $1,000s for access to her methods. Others enrolled in cheaper online modules promising similar breakthroughs. Either way, it wasn't pocket change, it was a premium brand built on exclusivity. And for a while it worked. Her clips spread fast across TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Fans called her the female Andrew Huben of relationships. Her advice mixed tough love truths with emotional intelligence, the kind of blend that feels both intellectual and seductive. Every word, every pose, every quote reinforced the image of a disciplined, self-aware professional who had mastered herself first before teaching others. That's why what came next hit so hard. When your entire reputation rests on being the voice of self-control and high standards, even a single whisper of contradiction can unravel everything. Because the brand isn't just about advice, it's about the illusion of perfection. And once cracks start to show, people don't just question your behavior, they question your entire message. Like and subscribe, 2 stars and hypes for more, and let's continue. Then came the moment that changed everything. Out of nowhere, voice notes began surfacing online. Short, intimate clips that allegedly captured SADIA speaking in ways that didn't match the woman her followers thought they knew. The recordings were messy, emotional, and blunt. In them, the polished composure was gone. What people heard instead sounded raw and impulsive. At first, no one believed it was real. Her audience, mostly built around discipline and self-worth, refused to accept that the same person preaching emotional control could be caught in a storm of private drama. But the posts spread fast across X, Reddit, and TikTok. Each new upload added fuel, whispers of an affair, screenshots hinting at late-night conversations, and clips that painted a very different picture of the so-called high-value lifestyle. No official outlet could immediately verify the authenticity of every clip. But the damage didn't wait for confirmation. Online, perception is reality. Her name started trending not for her teachings, but for the controversy attached to them. Within hours, creators who once praised her coaching started posting reactions, dissecting every word and tone in the leaked audios. People weren't just shocked at what was said, they were stunned by who was saying it. The same voice that taught restraint and self-awareness now seemed entangled in something reckless. And that contradiction is what made the story explode. Suddenly, every piece of her content was being rewatched through a new lens. Viewers replayed her clips about loyalty, self-respect, and staying out of messy relationships, pausing to compare them with the alleged recordings. It became a digital investigation not about facts, but about consistency. The reaction wasn't quiet and it wasn't kind. For an influencer who sold control, the loss of narrative control was brutal. But the real question wasn't whether the leaks were true, it was how easily her entire brand could crumble once authenticity was in doubt. And that's where the story turns from scandal to case study. Because when your success depends on trust, even one exposed contradiction can end an empire. In the coaching world, credibility isn't an accessory, it's the product. You can't hold it, you can't refund it, but once it's gone, everything else collapses. SADIA's brand was built on authority. She didn't just give dating advice, she positioned herself as someone who understood human behavior at its core. Her followers believed her because she sounded certain, and certainty sells. The moment uncertainty entered the picture, her entire foundation started to shake. What made this hit harder than most influencer scandals was the message she stood on. When your business is values, your behavior becomes part of the curriculum. People didn't just buy her courses, they bought the idea that she had mastered what she preached. And that illusion, the promise of inner alignment, is fragile. Once the leaks hit, the audience didn't argue about the technical details of psychology. They argued about authenticity. Was she genuinely the self-aware, emotionally balanced mentor she claimed to be, or just another influencer monetizing an image of self-control? The irony was brutal. The very skills she taught, emotional discipline, boundaries, self-awareness, became the measuring stick people used against her, and in the eyes of many viewers, she failed her own test. But credibility isn't destroyed by a single mistake. It erodes through silence. When the story broke, people searched for her response, a statement, a clarification, anything. The longer she waited, the faster the speculation spread. That vacuum of information gave critics the freedom to fill in the blanks, and they did, loudly. It's a pattern we see across the self-help world. The mentor becomes a mirror for our expectations. We project wisdom onto them, then punish them when they act human. But SADIA's case stood out because her entire model revolved around self-control. And now, control was exactly what she'd lost. What happens next isn't about scandal, it's about survival. When a coach's credibility collapses, the audience doesn't just question their advice, they question the entire idea that transformation can be sold at all. And that's where the story turns. Because beyond the drama, there's a much bigger question waiting. What happens when the image of perfection we buy into starts looking more like a performance? Every successful online figure has two versions of themselves, the one they live with, and the one the camera captures. SADIA mastered the second. Her feed looked flawless. Neutral color palettes, confident body language, carefully staged captions about discipline and emotional strength. Every frame screamed control. The lighting was soft, the words precise, the outfits minimalist but powerful. The visual language of someone who supposedly has life figured out. She didn't just post content, she curated an atmosphere, subtle background music, slow eye contact with the lens, the calm authority of someone who speaks and expects silence in return. That's how she built authority, not just through ideas but through aesthetic persuasion. And yet, the stronger an image becomes, the more fragile it is. Once the leaks surfaced, people revisited those same videos and saw something different. The poise now looked like performance, the stillness looked staged. It wasn't that her words changed, it was the context that flipped. Then came the deep dives, frame-by-frame breakdowns of her clips, people analyzing tiny inconsistencies, filters bending backgrounds, subtle edits that made her waist or posture shift unnaturally. Whether intentional or not, those details became symbolic, proof to many viewers that even the visuals were curated illusions. Suddenly, the brand that had preached authenticity was being accused of artifice. It wasn't just about moral behavior anymore. It was about digital honesty. And that hit harder than anyone expected, because in an era obsessed with realness, nothing destroys credibility faster than looking too perfect. The irony? That polish was what made her successful in the first place. The same flawless aesthetic that attracted followers turned into Exhibit A of her downfall. Viewers who once admired her control now saw concealment. And when an audience feels deceived by the surface, they start doubting everything underneath. It's a brutal truth of online influence. Perception can't be managed forever. Filters crack, facades glitch, and the very tools used to inspire trust can end up betraying it. By the time the clips finished circulating, SADIA's image wasn't just questioned, it was reinterpreted. The woman once seen as disciplined and aspirational was now being cast as calculated. And in the world of self-help, that shift is fatal. Because once people decide your image was part of the act, your message stops landing, no matter how true it might be. When people started questioning SADIA's image, they didn't stop at her behavior, they went straight for her business model. Her programs were never cheap. Whether it was the high-value man course, private one-on-one calls, or online intensives, everything was marketed as exclusive. The price tag wasn't hidden, it was part of the pitch. Because in her world, cost equaled credibility. If you could afford her, you were already signaling that you valued yourself. That idea worked brilliantly for years. She turned self-worth into a product, and people bought in. To them, spending thousands wasn't a red flag, it was a flex. Her clients weren't just buying advice, they were buying access to someone who appeared to have mastered relationships, control, and inner peace. But once the scandal broke, those same numbers became ammunition. Screenshots of her pricing began circulating online, programs running into the thousands, alleged hourly sessions worth several grand. Whether every figure was accurate didn't matter, the perception stuck. She wasn't just selling help, she was selling hope at luxury prices. And in the middle of the backlash, that hope started looking like manipulation. Critics called it a confidence tax, charging people desperate for guidance a premium for solutions that might not exist. Supporters defended her, saying transformation requires investment, and her time was worth what the market would pay. But the debate revealed something deeper. People weren't just angry about the cost, they were angry about the contrast. Because the more her private life looked unstable, the harder it became to justify those prices. The illusion of mastery had cracked, and once that happened, the numbers no longer inspired confidence, they provoked resentment. Still, SADIA's model wasn't unique. It's the same formula that powers the modern self-help economy. Build authority, monetize access, promise clarity, package empowerment like it's a designer product. But here's the catch. When you sell self-worth as a luxury, your own image becomes the brand, and that means every personal mistake becomes a customer complaint. The scandal didn't just threaten her reputation, it shook the economics of her empire. Clients started questioning whether they'd been coached or conned, whether they paid for guidance or glamour. And that's when the story stopped being about SADIA alone. It became a reflection of the entire industry built on glossy promises and motivational rhetoric wrapped in premium pricing. Because in this world, the product isn't advice. It's the illusion of transformation. The internet didn't just react to SADIA Kahn's scandal, it feasted on it. That's the thing about digital controversy. It doesn't spread because people care about truth. It spreads because outrage performs well. The same algorithms that once boosted her motivational content now rewarded her downfall. The engagement didn't vanish, it just changed flavor. On Twitter, people debated her psychology credentials. On TikTok, short clips turned into memes, lip syncs, and remix edits mocking the high-value persona. On YouTube, creators uploaded long-form breakdowns connecting her to a bigger pattern of guru hypocrisy. It wasn't journalism, it was spectacle. And the strangest part, the audience wasn't entirely angry. Many were entertained. Watching a coach collapse publicly satisfies something primal, a mix of curiosity, judgment, and relief. It's the digital equivalent of slowing down to watch a car crash. You don't approve, but you can't look away. In every era, people have loved seeing the mighty fall. But the internet turned it into a cycle. Today's inspiration is tomorrow's expose. One week you're a life coach, the next you're a cautionary tale. It's not random, it's a system built on emotional whiplash. Viewers get addicted to the highs and lows, and creators learn to ride the waves even when it burns their credibility. The reaction to SADIA's scandal revealed something deeper about that system. Her story became a vessel for everyone's frustrations, with fake gurus, overpriced mentorships, and the endless promise of instant self-improvement. She wasn't just being judged for what she did, she was being punished for what people were tired of believing in. And once the crowd decided she was guilty, there was no defense strong enough. Even if she released statements, even if she apologized, the narrative had already been written by strangers. The internet doesn't need evidence, it needs entertainment. That's the real tragedy of these cycles. Every downfall feeds the next rise. Every scandal becomes a lesson. Not about truth, but about attention. Because in the online world, outrage isn't an accident. Once the noise took over, truth didn't matter as much as timing. By the time SADIA finally responded, addressing some of the rumors, clarifying her position, hinting that parts of the story were distorted, the internet had already moved on. In the digital age, silence isn't neutrality, it's guilt by default. Waiting even a day to speak turns into an admission for audiences addicted to instant answers. But here's the uncomfortable part. None of the viral clips told the full story. Context vanished, tone was interpreted. Screenshots were cropped. Even the phrase leaked audio carries power. It makes anything sound incriminating before it's verified. Online, accusation and evidence blur together, and reputation dies in the space between. For many creators, this is the part that hurts most. The moment they realize they no longer control their own narrative. SADIA wasn't just facing criticism, she was facing reconstruction. Strangers edited her character into the villain of a morality play she never agreed to star in. And yet the fallout didn't just expose her vulnerability, it exposed ours. The audience that once praised her for discipline was now celebrating her collapse with the same intensity. That whiplash is what keeps the social economy alive, empathy one week, cruelty the next. We don't consume people, we consume their arcs. Still, there's a deeper danger hiding in that pattern. When every controversy becomes a blood sport, we stop caring about the truth altogether. We stop asking, did this actually happen? And start asking, how does it make me feel? Facts lose to feelings, and justice becomes a trend. Maybe some of the rumors were true, maybe some were exaggerated. But in the long run, it won't matter. The version of SADIA that lives online isn't hers anymore. It belongs to the collective imagination, to every tweet, every meme, every reaction video that stitched her story into digital folklore. And once that happens, there's no way back to who you were. The internet doesn't forgive. It just forgets until the next person slips. Because in this world, truth doesn't disappear. It just gets drowned out by the louder story. In the end, this story was never just about SADIA Kahn. It was about the promise she represented, the fantasy that someone out there has life figured out and that for the right price they can hand you the blueprint. That fantasy is seductive because it replaces uncertainty with confidence. It gives us heroes to follow, mantras to repeat, and shortcuts to believe in. But every time one of those heroes falls, we act shocked, as if the illusion wasn't built to break from the start. SADIA's collapse didn't just reveal her contradictions, it exposed ours. We demand authenticity from people who survive on presentation. We crave honesty in a system that rewards performance. We want relatable role models, but only until they remind us they're human. And that's the trap of online transformation culture. The more perfectly someone markets self-mastery, the less likely it is that they're living it. Because real growth is slow, messy, and deeply unglamorous. The exact opposite of what sells. The world doesn't click for subtle progress, it clicks for dramatic change, big promises, and glossy results. So when the scandal hit, what people really felt wasn't betrayal. It was disappointment. The realization that the person they projected perfection onto was just another person, not a prophecy. But maybe that's the real lesson here. You can't buy peace of mind, you can't outsource authenticity. No course, no program, no guru can give you something that isn't already growing painfully privately inside you. SADIA's story is a warning, not just for influencers, but for anyone who's ever been tempted to believe that confidence can be purchased or that high value can be taught like a formula. Because value isn't a strategy, it's a reflection of how you live when no one's watching, and eventually everyone's watching. So before you click and roll, ask yourself what you're really investing in, the lesson or the illusion. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to Stars and Hype so you don't miss what's coming next. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how things will continue in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care and have a great day.